Hi everyone. Yay, we're here. Makes me happy. Good. Then welcome. And we'll just set a bit for the beginning, okay? And I don't know. It's not really necessary to orient ourselves because where are we? We're always in the deep field of the universe. But sometimes it's nice to do nothing for a bit and see what appears. And that's meditation. So to begin, I suppose we always begin with here. What's here? What's it like to feel my own life here? And without, I suppose, without prejudice, really, to step out of the ways we think about ourselves and our life and the people we know, and just feel your life right now. The big thing, feeling our lives, enjoying ourselves, really, with a here-ness of being here. You're in this, if you look around your temple, you're in this, your own temple that's just for you for this moment. The walls, the roof, the trees, if you're outside, the flowers, the chair. We showed up in the universe and this happened. One of the old teachers says, "It's for you, honored one." So indeed it is. And so just to feel it, feel the time, and all the things, all the multiplicity of things that make up your life. It is perhaps not essential to fuss with them enough. Let your life organize itself for the time of the meditation. Or not organize itself. It's good enough without you reaching and striving. What a strange and marvelous thing not to reach and strive. Just to be here. And you can tell how, you can just feel it. Like right now, if you just feel it, there's nothing required of you. And it's a joyful thing, whatever you decide your life is for, to come together, just to do meditation, is itself opens many gates and doors. But to come together and do meditation, then we realize the connections among us and between us. And nobody has to look down on anybody or look up to anybody, because we're all connected in a mysterious way, and we just have to think, well, that's enough. Just like a bird call, it's enough. Or the sound of traffic. The sunlight striking through the window, it's enough. And so if you want to koan, one of the cons about the way we're all linked, or the way we're both unique and linked, each branch of coral holds up the moon. Each branch of coral holds up the moon. And so you tell that in the moonlight, wherever you look, in the ocean, in the water, where there's coral, there's a moon wherever you look. Thousands of moons, and it's all your moonlight. Each piece of moon is yours. And something to do with you. So the thing with the great koans is, in a way, not to jump past them and figure them out, or if you need to do that, that's okay. But what I've found is just let it come to me and act upon me. It's like it's feeling the time, feeling the koan. This beautiful poem, really. Fragment of the universe, a fragment of a poem. Each branch of coral holds up the moon. And just be willing to be here with you. Well, you are you. Just being willing to be here without knowing a lot about what you're doing here. Our practice is a marvelous thing because it's not described by anything else we care about or wish for. It's not smaller than anything else. It's not for anything else. It's just for you. Each branch of coral holds up the moon. And I've been struck, like many people have, by the James Webb Deep Field. They say that these are these are not stars; these are galaxies. And they say if you take a grain of sand and hold it eye level against the sky, it's pretty much what's contained here at arm's length, and just the sheer variety and multiplicity is wonderful. It's like creatures, the whole, all the galaxies. These are ones we've never seen before because of a very deep field from the James Webb telescope that had to open its wings, really, open its solar collectors, these vast, solar collectors, in order to power itself in deep space, and then send back these shots. So, I don't know. And I thought of Bernard Leeuwenhoek, the person who first, microscopes were invented in I think the 16th century, but he was a 17th century, amateur scientist, Dutch, and he first he put things under the microscope and saw blood, little cells, little cockles, he called them, in the blood or in the plant material, and he saw the tiny little beings swimming around, foraminifera, swimming around, and he called them little, little shellfish, like little shellfish in the world. Everything is made of little shellfish, Everything is made of little galaxies, and it's sort of a marvelous kind of thing, and it's galaxies all the way down, as they say, These are rather wonderful. It's called Stephan's Quintet, although I only really see, I think that really bright thing must be a one of the quintet, but there's marvelous universes. This is a universe containing many universes, though. So there we are, and I think one of the big things in the Zen Chan awakening is that we realize that all the little pieces make up a totality, and we're part of, as well as being a little piece made up of little cockles or whatever we're made up of, tiny little bits, then we also connected to in some way participate in and have a place in the vastness. And I sent this out in the newsletter, but it's such a great thing, it's always worth. Su Dongbo was a great late, by Chinese standards, a Song dynasty after the Great Golden Age, after civil wars and bad emperors had torn China apart. He would stay. I don't know that people were rather loose about the notion of religion in those days, but intelligent people would tend to stay at Zen temples when they were traveling. Poets and people like that, and so people felt themselves to be part of the Chan world without necessarily, not being other things like Taoists or something. And he had a great awakening while staying at this temple, and he wrote a poem on the wall of the temple, and then he walked off, and that was his. He didn't publish it. He didn't know. Well, that's a publishing, I guess. Poem on the wall of temple, great tradition in Chan. And the first two lines refer to Shakyamuni, the Buddha. The sound of the stream is his long, broad tongue. The colors of the mountains, his body. This night has 84,000 verses. How will I remember them tomorrow? And it's a kind of thing that just keeps coming back to me, when I'm sitting at night these days. We're having a kind of nice, so far, the fire season hasn't really ramped up towards the coast where I live in California. So we've got these, from the Humboldt Current coming south from the Bering Sea past our little county, the cold fogs get drawn in the evening and drip all night and keeps the redwoods going. And so I sit out at night just listening to the dripping, really. It's not really raining, but it's not really not raining. It's going drip, drip, drip. And then you hear the foxes, the raccoons, deer crashing about, You hear all sorts of things, and you hear a strange cough that you're not sure you want to inquire into too much, And, and things like that. And who knows what it is, It's probably, might be anybody. And so we had this one, and then birds moving about that have no business moving about at night, and then the owl calling and another owl responding, So we're really in this is our quintet. This is our galaxy we're in. I'm in that, and you're in whatever you're in. Maybe you're dreaming, and you're lying in your sheets and just asleep, And that's the piece of the universe too. That's the fragment that you have at that moment. And so sitting out there, then it occurred to me, and then at dawn, the hummingbirds they're on the go because they need an enormous amount of fuel to keep them going in flight the way they are. And I noticed that, particularly then when everything else is quiet, their wing sounds are quite different from each other. There's a big one that has incredibly loud click, click, click wing sounds. And, I thought about should I worry for it, but then didn't seem any point in that. So I didn't. I just decided to just enjoy its wings. And then there's little ones that, just a little whir you're used to. But it was like everything becomes, you see the little cockles in the bloodstream. You see the minutiae of life. And so then I was thinking about the sound of the stream is his long, broad tongue, the colours of the mountains, his body. And then I thought about the garden and Kuan Yin instead of Shakyamuni. Gold light inside the dawn fog. Isn't that her calm face? Everywhere these roses climbing are her graceful body. It's a kind of summer poem. And I think the thing is that, it's not a mistake to be here. Kuan Yin is here, Buddha is here, and your own heart is here. There's no other. You're not going to find Buddha or Kuan Yin somewhere else, and the blessing of that. To call on the Chinese and Japanese have a thing about to call, if you're really caught in some dark place, if you call on the name of Avalokiteshvara even once, you will be transported. So one moment, as Hakuan says, one moment of zazen frees you from all your crimes. And it was kind of nice. I have a friend who's sort of really kind of a bit literal-minded, and he said, for example, that's a good example of meditation instruction that's not true. And I said, no, it's true. One moment of zazen, there are no, right now, like take it right now, the moment of zazen. There are no crimes. There are no mistakes right now. Just feel it. Or you can argue with me if you want. Argue with your mind, and even that is the now. He's wrong again. It's kind of fun. So, yeah, he just says this stuff. I don't know. So yeah. And so I've just been noticing those little minute particles that life's made up of. And here's a great thing. And I'm a fan of Juan Villoro wrote a book about Mexico City called Horizontal Vertigo, which is a rather wonderful idea that you get vertigo from the craziness of ness of it. And he said the way you can't even navigate around Mexico City in his view, and since he lives there and has lived there his whole life and he won't leave, and he says it's true that Waze and Google Maps can save us, but with the proliferation of streets with the same name, both apps can take you to the wrong place. The user must also know the name of the neighborhood, but even that is not conclusive. I live in a neighborhood with two official names, Via Coyoacan and Coyoacan Center. Despite that, the Uber operating system gives it a third name, Santa Catarina. The street is named after one of the strongmen of the Mexican Revolution. This means the name reappears on the furthest outposts of the city. Following this is an old thing now, following the 2017 Rohi Guide, the metropolitan area contains 412 streets, roundabouts, and avenues named Carranza. To get to my house, you have to reject 411 options located in other zones and know beforehand the 3 different names the apps ascribe to my neighborhood. Besides all that, the Waze programs are not always up to date on the sudden uses we make of space. After a wave of muggings, the neighbors gather one fed-up Wednesday and put up a gate to keep outsiders from entering their street. But with the same spontaneity, on some Thursday or other, they organize the Tamarind Feast, and on the avenue you're foolishly trying to cross. In a landscape where orientation is almost impossible, a wrong turn constitutes a mere test. Making mistakes gives us confidence, and if you detect it and say that's not the way, you confirm that there actually is a way and a goal that exists. The territory exceeds us in such a way it's better to ignore certain things. Not knowing how many of us there are can upset visitors, but not us, because we're convinced that the margin of error is never completely wrong, because it announces the possibility of reaching something that is not an error. So, navigating around the galaxy. So, yeah. And if you notice your own heart and your own mind, the immense multiplicity of it. I remember when I first took up koans, I realized that in the Orthodox koan curriculum, there are like 1,700 koans, And it depends what you call a koan and so on like that. But some of the koans have like 3 koans inside them and things. And I thought, and I very much had the idea that koans were for, providing both a vessel and a sort of catalyst for awakening, which is, one of their uses. And so if you really hang out with a koan in some way, you know, you walk into a door one day and wake up, or you're in the shower or something like that and you wake up in some way, and your understanding of life is really different. And it's a kind of nice thing to know about that. But the other thing that koans do is really the reason there are so many of them. It's like galaxies. It's like each one of them contains, a fragment of awakening, and you might bump into any of them. And also, you might learn more and more just by the different bits of the koans. So each branch of coral holds up the moon, which I like because I'm a sucker for romantic lyric images. And then I think of like traveling over in North Queensland in Australia, the coral sea goes really up to the islands. The islands to the east of Papua New Guinea, and you can. I've steamed over them in old wooden fishing boat actually, and other equally fragile vessels, and wherever you are, like there's just coral and more coral, and in each of them there's that if you look in, the moonlight is there, and also the golden fish and the sharks, and just the beauty of it, is there. And also the possibility that you'll run into some part of the reef you don't know well and just tear a hole in the bottom of the boat. So it was something we didn't actually think about, which was good because we had no lifeboats, dinghies, nothing like that. But we'd been around. We sort of trusted our feel for the ocean and the currents and things. So yeah. So you can. So the coral is an image for the multiplicity. How everything, these tiny little creatures make this huge structure, and then it's alive just at the tips, with the moonlight. And all of us make this huge thing, and we're all the tips. We're alive at the whole reef. And the original, it was a call and response by a student who had an awakening experience, and the idea was you're supposed to say some profound poem about awakening, like Sudung Po's, 84th last night I had 84,000 verses. How will I remember them tomorrow? Supposed to say things like that. But he didn't. He had a series of questions and answers, and the question that went with this one was, what is the sharpest sword? So that is like, what does that mean? It's itself a question, something to sit with. What is the sharpest sword? What gives understanding and cuts through things? So, then you're in the image realm, with swords and things that cut, and dreams about swords and stuff like that. And people who are becoming teachers, they're doomed and they can't escape the fate of being a teacher. They sometimes dream about swords or receiving a sword or something like that. So the stuff gets into the depths of the soul, really. So yeah, so that's that koan, and you'll feel like everywhere each particular thing you look at contains the whole galaxy, contains the universe, and so it's a great thing to discover and to know that you have a part of all this. And so the old teacher said, you weren't born and you cannot die. Kind of strange thing. Why is it consoling to think I wasn't born? What's that got to do with I can't die? But you can feel it when you meditate. You can feel the truth of these things. That when you're here, you've always been here. It's kind of And if you're content to be here, that's what meditation gives us. It's not some extra thing to believe or think about. In fact, it's better not to bother believing things, because then you'll just have to lose them. So instead of that, we're just here. It's kind of marvelous. And so I want to read just a couple of other little things here. This is Walter Benjamin, who's a great kind of scholar of between the great wars of the 20th century, and he thought about his Big Shaggy Dog book, which he's trying to get at everything he understands and knows into, and he didn't make it through the war, but and he says, say something about the method of composition itself, the creative process. How everything one is thinking at a specific moment in time must at all costs be incorporated into the project then at hand. So whatever you're thinking now is something to do with your project. It's rather a wonderful idea, because, you don't have to worry so much whether you're thinking the right thing. You just assume, this must be the right thing. And Master Ma, great Mazu, who's right at the head of right near Linji, and right at the head of Linji was the student of his student, of the great koan tradition. And he said, the whole meaning of your life is contained in this current moment, in the matter at hand. The whole meaning of your life is contained in the matter at hand. And it's incredibly liberating, because you don't have to go and find a meaning somewhere else. When you've given up whatever you've given up, or acquired whatever you're trying to acquire. And those things are just by the way. You're really here, and being here is enough. And just like it's enough for the galaxy to be there. We've no idea whether those galaxies in the James Webb field, deep field, what is the meaning of being a galaxy? How am I doing as a galaxy? Things like that. But you can tell that, just the universe is just pouring through them and becoming them. And here's another tiny little piece. This is Yehuda Amichai, Things That Have Been Lost. A thing about the fragments. From newspaper columns and notice boards, I find out about things that have been lost. This way I know what people had and what they love. Once my tired head fell on my hairy chest, and I found there my father's smell, again after many years. My memories are like someone who can't go back to Czechoslovakia, or who is afraid to return to Chile. Sometimes I see again the white vaulted room with the telegram on the table. So let's sit some more, with all that. And just like each coral branch, each branch of coral holds up the moon. The moon is for you, it's with you,